The repair bay of Outpost KL-9 smelled of ionized metal and hydraulic fluid. Evan worked in silence, his calloused hands moving with practiced precision across the damaged thruster assembly. Around him, the station hummed with the controlled chaos of a frontier outpost, a place where a dozen species mingled, traded, and occasionally threatened one another. He didn't look up when the 3 Korthani merchants entered. Their heavy footfalls announced them long before their shadows fell across his workbench. "Human," the lead merchant growled, his translator rendering his clicks and hisses into passable standard. "Where is our shipment?" Evan set down his plasma welder. "Delayed. Supply convoy hit trouble at the Vale Nebula. Should arrive in 4 rotations." The merchant's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Unacceptable. We paid premium rates for timely delivery." "Take it up with management," Evan replied evenly, returning to his work. "I just fix things." What happened next occurred too quickly for most observers to process. The lead merchant's claw lashed out, striking Evan across the shoulder and sending him stumbling against the workbench. Tools clattered to the deck plating. The bay fell silent. Evan straightened slowly, rubbing his shoulder. He said nothing, his expression carefully neutral. The Korthani towered over him, their exoskeletons gleaming under the harsh overhead lights. They were predators from a high-gravity world, each one capable of tearing a human apart. "Perhaps that will teach you respect when addressing your—" The merchant's words died in his throat. A shadow detached itself from beneath a nearby dropship. Then another, and another. Skara emerged first, her juvenile scales already showing the iridescent patterns that would mark her as a huntress of the Velkan species. She was barely 4 feet tall, her wings still too small for sustained flight. Behind her came 6 others, cubs all of them, refugees from a war-torn system that Evan had never asked about. They moved with the fluid grace of born predators, fanning out in a semicircle that cut off the merchant's path to the exit. Skara's golden eyes fixed on the lead Korthani. When she spoke, her voice carried the hissing undertone of her species, but the translator rendered it crystal clear. "You touched him." The merchant's confidence wavered. "This is none of your concern, whelp. Return to your— You touched him." Skara's talons extended with an audible click. The other cubs mirrored her movement. The Korthani merchants shifted uneasily. They were warriors, yes, but even warriors knew when they'd stumbled into something dangerous. Velkan cubs were rare off their homeworld, and rarer still were those who'd survived long enough to learn the old ways. "We meant no disrespect to your pack," the second merchant offered, his tone conciliatory. "We were merely expressing our frustration with—" "He is not our pack," Skara interrupted. She took a step forward, and despite her small size, the movement carried undeniable menace. "He is our teacher, our provider, the one who fed us when we were starving, who gave us shelter when we had none, who asked for nothing in return." The lead merchant's exoskeleton plates rattled, a Korthani expression of dismissal, a human showing kindness to strays. "How touching. But this doesn't—" He didn't finish. Skara moved like liquid shadow, closing the distance in a heartbeat. Her talon stopped a hair's breadth from the merchant's primary eye cluster. "Tell me," she said softly, "is the coin in your account enough for a funeral? Or should we add your brothers to the total?" The third merchant reached for his sidearm. Before his claw touched the grip, 2 cubs materialized on either side of him. Their smaller talons pressed against the soft joints of his carapace, the places where even Korthani armor was vulnerable. The bay remained absolutely still. In the background, the normal sounds of the station continued. Announcements over intercoms, the hiss of pressure seals, the distant clang of cargo containers. But in this small corner of Outpost KL-9, time seemed suspended. Evan finally spoke. "Skara. Stand down." The cub's eyes didn't leave the merchant, but her wings quivered, a sign of internal conflict. "He struck you." "I'm aware." Evan's voice remained steady, but there was steel underneath. "And you've made your point. Now stand down." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Skara's talon retracted slowly, deliberately. The other cubs followed suit, but they didn't retreat. They maintained their positions, a clear statement that their withdrawal was a choice, not a surrender. The lead merchant stumbled backward. His earlier bravado evaporated. We will report this to station security." "Please do," Evan said calmly, picking up his fallen tools. Make sure you mention how you assaulted a station worker in his own bay. I'm sure Commander Vex will be fascinated to hear about it." The Korthani exchanged glances. Everyone knew Commander Vex, the station's Velkan administrator. Everyone knew she took a dim view of violence against station personnel. Everyone knew she had a particular interest in the welfare of displaced cubs. The merchants departed with whatever dignity they could salvage, their footsteps quick despite their size. As the bay's entrance sealed behind them, the cubs relaxed their aggressive postures. Skara approached Evan, her head tilted in that peculiar way that made her look almost bird-like. "You are injured?" "I'm fine." Evan knelt to her level, examining her talons. "But you need to be careful. Those claws are getting sharper. Have you been using the whetstone I gave you?" "Every morning, as you showed me." Pride colored her voice. "The others practice with me." Evan smiled faintly. "Good. Now all of you back to your lessons. That quantum drive isn't going to disassemble itself, and I want each of you to identify at least 3 components by end of shift." The cubs dispersed with varying degrees of enthusiasm, returning to the makeshift classroom Evan had set up in the bay's secondary work area. Skara lingered a moment longer. "Why do you stop us?" she asked quietly. "We would have defended you. We are not helpless anymore." Evan returned to his workbench, but his voice carried clearly. "Because I don't need you to defend me, Skara. I need you to be better than the universe that tried to break you. Violence is easy. Choosing when not to use it, that's what separates predators from protectors." Skara's wings rustled, a gesture of contemplation. "And if someone threatens you again? Then you assess the situation and respond appropriately." He met her eyes. "But you don't make threats you're not prepared to follow through on. Those merchants will think twice before touching anyone on this station now. That's enough, is it?" Skara's golden eyes gleamed with something ancient and dangerous. "Because we are prepared, teacher. Always." She padded away to join her siblings, leaving Evan alone with his thoughts. He returned to his work, but couldn't quite suppress a smile. Humanity had earned many reputations among the stars. Innovators, survivors, warriors when necessary. But perhaps the most dangerous thing about humans wasn't their capacity for violence or their stubborn refusal to quit. Perhaps it was their tendency to inspire loyalty in the unlikeliest of allies. Outside, through the bay's viewport, the stars wheeled in their ancient dance, and in a forgotten corner of a frontier outpost, a quiet human mechanic taught 7 orphaned predators that the strongest weapon wasn't a talon or a claw. It was knowing precisely when to use them.